Obviously, there's been a USA presidential election this week, and well, I'll just share Greg's question. There we go. So what Greg wrote is, with the outcome of yesterday's US election, I've seen many posts from people and even had a couple of conversations with friends who are not coping well with the outcome. Some of these folks aren't even in the States, so it's not even their government. I wonder if Jamie Smart could speak to how best to help people get through the situation. Well, there are a couple of things that occurred to me straight out of the gate. The first one is a very practical thing of whether you live in the USA or not. The outcome of the USA election probably has more bearing on more people in the world than any other election that takes place. So I can understand why people who aren't in the US are interested in it and have thoughts about it. So that was the first thing that occurred to me. But the second thing that occurred to me in the situation that many people are in at the moment in response to the US election results, I was thinking about, for those people who aren't happy with the election results, obviously there are lots of people who are happy with them, but for those who are less than happy, what are some of the emotions that they may be experiencing? And these are some possible emotions. Shock, because I think a lot of people thought that there was no way that Trump was going to get another term. So people are shocked. Disbelief or denial. In situations like this, people often have a sense of disbelief or kind of not knowing where they stand, like the rug's being pulled out from under them. So that I could easily imagine that being the case. Fear. Just one of the things I've noticed is a lot of the rhetoric that's been on display over the last few months has been the kind of rhetoric that drives advertising revenue. You got to understand the media business model is about eyeballs. So news media sell eyeballs to their advertisers, and their job is to keep people, don't change that dial, keep your attention glued to the screen. And so it seems that a lot of the media output has stoked fear and worry and anxiety. So I can easily imagine that people are frightened, and maybe with good reason in some cases. Like I haven't, none of us know what the years ahead hold. And, it's people are concerned, right? Sadness, grief, anger, and frustration, maybe a sense of betrayal or being let down either by their political leaders or by the media or even by their fellow countrymen, right? Like feeling, who are these people who have voted in someone who I consider to be, beyond the pale? So betrayal, resignation, feeling like there's nothing they can do about it, like what's the point, that sort of thing. Alienation, feeling out of touch with like the kind of the people who think so differently from them. There's a way in which how two people can go to the same movie and have a completely different experience? Well, there's a way in which this is a very real experience of that, where, hundreds of millions of people have watched the same movie, and some of them are filled with joy and, happiness and glee and a sense of victory or whatever, I don't know what everyone's saying. And some of them are feeling like it's the end of the world, and they're watching the same movie, but they're having a very different experience in their neurology. So that can lead to a sense of confusion. So people are going to be confused, or likely to be confused, I would say, and a sense of uncertainty, not knowing what the future holds, potentially demotivation in there with that resignation thing, and just concerns about geopolitical stuff and that sort of thing. Now, while we can be certain about whatever we're certain about in terms of the principles, about where our experience is coming from, who we really are, that sort of thing, I don't think any of us have any basis to be certain about the way things are going to play out, because we don't know. We don't know. So I think one of the things that can be really, really valuable in working with or having a conversation with anyone who's been negatively impacted by this is to listen for their wisdom and intelligence, for their resilience, for their common sense, and to be kind in relation to their understandable fears, anxieties, disbelief, worry, all that kind of stuff. Because the fact of the matter is, there's also a large portion of the population who are kind of taking a great deal of pleasure in kind of rubbing people's noses in it and that sort of thing. And that's got to be upsetting as well. I think there's a huge opportunity for empathy, for understanding, for love and care. And it's a great, one of my favorite books is called Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson. And one of the experiments he recommends you do in that book, each chapter has a list of experiments at the end of it. And he said he recommended read the magazines, listen to the newscasts and that sort of thing of people you vehemently disagree with, and try to imagine what it's like. In a way, if you're Greg, you're speaking to a friend or a client or a family member who is somewhere on the range of feeling devastated by this. And I know there will be a lot of people in our community who are feeling that way, and maybe people on this call who are feeling that way. It's a great opportunity to steelman them and get their world. And, if we really go back to basics, step one is get their world, listen, and find your way into connection with them. I think that's probably, if I was going to shoot from the hip on it, Greg, that's the only way I can think of that's pretty reliable for being able to have a conversation with anyone on pretty much any topic that'll lead you somewhere worth going.